Okay, so I've had some questions about pentatonic scales, and I'm going to address some of that right now. Everybody learns the patterns the same way. I learned them the same way. You are learning them now or have learned them, and the flaw in that is that when you get a book and it has these patterns, they're starting on whatever note is the lowest note and playing through the pattern, and again, you are hearing it in the wrong context. I mean, that's what made learning modal playing, that's what made it difficult for me, and I think it's what makes it difficult for a lot of people, which is why I'm doing this approach of always starting on the root of the key. And it will make more sense to you when you are trying to expand your thinking if you hear it this way. Now, let's talk about, let me just scoot over a little bit here, get this guitar up in the air some. In fact, let me zoom in first. Okay, zoomed in. We are zoomed. Okay, so you buy a book and it says to you, here are the patterns for the C major pentatonic scale, and it might even say the C major or A minor pentatonic scale, and that's where the problem is. They are the same notes, but when you hear it the wrong way, it makes it more difficult to use. So let's say, for example, the C major pentatonic scale, that would be, I guess, in the second position, because your first finger is going to be in fret 2 to start off. Now, I would call this, based on the C major scale, I would call it form 5-2, because on the 5th string my second finger is playing the root. But when we look at the patterns out of a book, it says start here on this G note and go. And while that is mathematically correct, sonically it's not really correct. I want to start on the C. That way when I end on the C, I begin on the C and end on the C, it sounds like a major pentatonic scale as opposed to sounding like a random collection of 5 tones that happen to be spaced the same way as a pentatonic scale would be spaced. And again, of course, the reason it's called pentatonic is because it has 5 notes: C, D, E, G, and A. There we go, there's our 5 notes. So coming down from the A, got a couple of extra notes here, but I want to go back to C to finish up the correct sound. In the same token, this next scale pattern, again, we've all learned it as, and if I'm playing an A minor pentatonic scale, that is correct. But if I'm thinking about it as a C major pentatonic scale, then I need to start on the C. Now the next one's a little easier to deal with because it's going to start on the C. The next pattern, even though most books will show starting here, playing those 6 notes, I like to go ahead and start on the C and make a slide immediately. That way I'm able to get the sound of it starting on the C again. So just play the C and then move over. And slide back down. That way you get the sound of the C at the end. Now, it's important to note here that typically what I do, and I think most other guitar players do something like this, and that is when I'm making a shift, whatever finger is the last one I used. Let's say I use my first finger, then my third finger. Now I'm going to move to the next position and play on. When I'm coming back down, now going up, I played that note with my third finger, but going down, I'm going to go ahead and use all the fingers I can, then move over to play the last note. Makes sense to me, I hope it makes sense to you. Form 5/4. Again, I've got my fourth finger on the fifth string. I'm wanting to start and end on the C again, and down here at the bottom, you can do this any way you want. You want to play that note with your second finger, this one with your fourth finger. It's perfectly logical to do it that way. If you get down there and like to play with your first and third finger, it's perfectly logical to do that, and there might be reasons you would do it for one reason or another. One reason you might get used to having your first finger on this note right here is because in the C major pentatonic scale, this D note, really nice note to bend, and typically a lot of bends are going to be happening with your third finger, and the first and third finger as companions in most licks work out pretty well. Okay, I know that was kind of a brief blast on the pentatonic scales, and again, if you want to send me a PM or a comment and say, hey, send me those tabs that you've got for that, I'll be glad to do that. I mean, besides teaching and playing a few gigs and some yard work, I don't have that much to do. So if you'd like to have them, feel free to shoot me a message. I'll be glad to send them along, and just keep practicing and make some good music.